Drinking kefir changed my life, and I'm sure it will change yours. Kefir is one of the highest probiotic foods you can ever find, and homemade kefir outranks any store-bought variety. You can make your own kefir at home. Making kefir is surprisingly simple. It's hard for many of us to get used to the sour taste of kefir. It's especially harder for children. After 9 years of experience with making homemade kefir and kefir yogurt, I found this process that makes kefir as sweet as possible. So the taste is much sweeter and enjoyable for everyone. To make kefir, you need kefir grains. Kefir grains look a little bit like cauliflower florets. 2 tablespoons of kefir grains are enough to start. For approximately 2 tablespoons of grains, add 1.5 cups of milk, but the more grains you have, the faster your kefir will be ready. Add the kefir grains to the glass jar, then pour the milk on top. If you take good care of your kefir grains, they will reproduce and grow over time. You will need to either increase the milk or remove some of the grains, which you can eat, blend into smoothies, share with friends, or feed to your pets. The best and safest container for fermenting kefir is a glass jar because glass does not leach any chemicals into the kefir. Kefir grains require a steady diet of fresh milk and regular straining to survive. Leave 5 centimeters or 2 inches at the top of the jar empty. Put a breathable cover on the jar such as a coffee filter, a tight weave towel, or a paper towel, and secure the cover to the jar with a rubber band. Keep the kefir on the counter at room temperature for faster fermentation. 24 hours at 65 Fahrenheit or about 12 hours at 85 Fahrenheit. Afterward, your kefir will look like this. When there is about 1 or 2 centimeters of whey at the bottom of the jar, put the kefir jar into the refrigerator to slow down the fermentation process. In this video, I'm combining the process of making kefir and kefir yogurt to make the sweetest kefir even sweeter. As well, I'm going to answer the most common questions that you've asked in the comments about kefir in the last 8 years. Once your kefir is ready, stir the kefir with a spoon or put the lid onto your jar and shake it well. Make sure the lid is on tight so you won't make a mess. Strain the kefir with a sieve, a stainless steel colander, or a plastic colander that has tiny holes. You can use mammal milk such as goat and cow milk with full or low fat, raw or pasteurized. Milk kefir grains will die if you use plant-based milk such as soy or almond milk. Fresh whole fat milk makes the greatest tasting and healthiest kefir. Ultra high temperature pasteurized milk may work temporarily but won't work over the long term as the grains will become unhealthy or might die. Kefir can't be made with powdered milk. You don't have to warm the milk to room temperature to make kefir, but if you do so, that's fine. Wash the glass container between fermentation cycles and rinse it well. I have a strainer only for straining kefir and a sponge only for washing this strainer. Sometimes I use a paper towel instead of a sponge. I believe the key to having healthy grains is to make sure they are not contaminated. You can store your kefir at this stage and you can enjoy it. As you can see, the kefir is very creamy and filled with probiotics. Rinse grain with milk or with clean, non-chlorinated cold water. Do not use tap water, as the chlorine kills the grains. By washing your kefir grains, you wash off most of the bacteria on the surface into your kefir, and so the next batch won't be as sour. Store your kefir in a glass jar. Because of the acidity, do not ferment or store kefir in plastic and metal. Otherwise, the plastic or metal might erode and get into your kefir. Kefir is a great source of probiotics with over 37 billion bacteria per 100 milliliter. Kefir is a great source of vitamins such as A, B1, B2, B3, B6, B9 or folic acid, B12, vitamins C, D, E, and K2. The complete proteins in kefir are already partially digested, and minerals such as calcium, iron, phosphorus, magnesium, copper, zinc, and many other unique compounds that can greatly contribute to your overall health and well-being. Kefir was used to treat stomach ulcers, gastric illnesses, chronic enteritis, bronchitis, and pneumonia. A daily dose of kefir is recommended for its full benefits. You'll be pleasantly surprised by its effectiveness. A single tablespoon, 15 milliliters a day, yields 5 billion beneficial bacteria. Kefir is a great source of nutrients for everyone, including children, elderly people, and pregnant women. The regular use of kefir can help relieve all intestinal disorders, promote bowel movement, and creates a healthier digestive system. Because kefir is such a balanced and nourishing food, it contributes to a healthier immune and nervous system, builds bone density, fights allergies, improves lactose digestion, and benefits the body in many more ways. The longer it ferments, the more sour the kefir will become, but the number of probiotics in the kefir will also increase. With keeping it in the refrigerator, you are slowing down the kefir grains activity, which makes kefir sweeter. If you keep your kefir jar on the counter for more than 24 hours, the warmer temperature will keep kefir grains active, so the kefir will become much more sour. You can keep kefir with the grains in the fridge from 24 hours to 3 weeks. The kefir will just be sour if you keep it longer. It will never go wrong. If you would like your kefir to be even sweeter, mix 1 part kefir with about 1 part milk and stir them well. Pour them into the jars and refrigerate it to enjoy any time. By adding milk at this stage to the kefir, you have begun the kefir yogurt process, but of course at a much slower rate because of the colder temperature in the fridge. The bacteria inside the kefir are active, but at a much slower rate than kefir grains. Instead of processing the kefir and making it sour, the bacteria begin to process the milk into kefir yogurt, which only makes the kefir sweeter. By mixing the kefir yogurt process with the kefir making process, you have just made your sweetest kefir even sweeter. This is my third video on kefir. If you would like to see the others, please click the link at the end to go to the kefir playlist. Now it's time to answer some of the most common questions you've asked in the comments. Question number 1. Can metal strainers and the spoons be used during the kefir process? In the past few years, I have been trying to keep my kitchen plastic free. Stainless steel strainers can be easily used in the straining process of kefir, but stainless steel containers shouldn't be used during the fermentation process or for storing kefir. Question number 2. Can kefir grains survive in the jar in the fridge without milk? No, they can't. Put the grains in a glass container and add milk. If you don't, your kefir grains will starve and won't survive. Question number 3. How can I keep my kefir grains healthy if I am traveling for a long time? You may want to temporarily stop making kefir. To do so, strain the grains, rinse them well, add fresh milk, and put it in the fridge right away. Now you can refrigerate it for 6 weeks without any worries. Question number 4. What should I do if I am not making kefir for longer than 6 weeks? If you can't make kefir for longer than 6 weeks, up to 6 months, or you want to mail it to someone, the grains must be dehydrated. Rinse the grains well with chlorine-free water. Lay them out on a clean towel or paper towel. Cover them loosely with a paper towel to keep dust off for about 5 days or until they become hard and yellowish. Store dehydrated grains in the freezer. Question number 5. How can I rehydrate my kefir grains? To rehydrate the grains, use pasteurized cow or goat milk. If you would like to make raw milk kefir, make sure the grains are fully rehydrated before slowly transitioning the grains to raw milk. The kefir may smell and taste unpleasant the first few times you make it after rehydrating. If so, strain the grains, discard the kefir, wash the grains well, and start over again. Question number 6. How do I know if my grains are healthy? Grains are contaminated if they are black, red, orange, or green. Yellow, light pink, or white grains are normal. If you make kefir once every 2 or 3 weeks, your kefir grains will have more of a yellowish hue. You might travel and return to find your grains yellowish. Don't worry. If you start making kefir every week again, they'll get whiter. If your kefir smells and tastes unpleasant, you probably need to get some new kefir grains. I left my kefir in the fridge for about a month. You can see almost half the jar is whey. I'm going to strain this and see if the kefir still tastes okay. The more whey you see in the bottom of the jar, the longer the kefir hasn't been strained and the sourer it will be. I will show you the color of the kefir grains afterward. I'm not going to explain the process in detail, but I'll keep answering the most common questions instead. Question number 7. When should I put my kefir in the fridge for the second fermentation? Make sure you see a good amount of whey, about 2 or 3 centimeters in the bottom of the jar before putting it into the fridge for the second fermentation. This is still part of the fermentation process, before the straining process. Keep the jar in the fridge for at least 24 hours. Question number 8. What should I do if my kefir grains are not growing? Kefir grains require a steady diet of fresh milk and regular straining to survive and grow. Strain them at least once a week. Strain kefir with a stainless steel colander that has tiny holes or a sieve to save the smallest kefir grains. If you are losing the small ones, the amount of grains won't increase that much. If your kefir grains are weak or not growing, change the milk brand to one that has more lactose or use whole milk. You also can keep your jar in the warmest spot. The warmer it is, the faster they will grow. If you keep it longer on the counter, your grains will grow faster. Here is my kefir grains after I kept them for about a month without straining. As you can see, they have a buttered popcorn color. They are still okay and they'll become whiter with regular weekly straining. Question number 9. Where can I buy kefir grains? You can purchase kefir grains online through Kijiji and Craigslist, or look for someone making kefir nearby who might be able to share some. Question number 10. How much kefir should I drink per day? You can start with 1/8 of a cup and gradually go up to 2 cups a day. It is a good idea to miss one day once in a while. We should be cautious in giving our systems enough time to get used to kefir. Sometimes, for cleaning your body from excesses of antibiotics, chemotherapy, or any pollution that you may have been exposed to, you can drink 4 cups a day for 5 to 7 days. If you are worried about your kid's height, this mix of kefir and milk is a traditional solution that works very well. It's best for kids from age 4 to drink 2 cups a day to grow tall. This has worked for many friends, family, and my own children. Question number 11. Where did you get your glass jars? My glass jars are reused peanut, pickle, and tomato paste jars. Before I add more milk, I am going to taste to ensure the kefir tastes pleasant. I will add more milk, almost half and half. Question number 12. How can I save my kefir grains from contamination? The grains are a medium for bacteria to grow on, and it doesn't matter for the grains whether they are healthy or unhealthy bacteria. To ensure no other bacteria colonize the grain, I have a strainer only for straining kefir and a sponge only for washing the strainer. Sometimes I use a paper towel instead of a sponge just to make sure the bacteria from the kitchen sponge doesn't contaminate the kefir grains. Question number 13. Is it okay to rinse grains with water or milk? Yes, you can rinse the grains with water or milk. Either way is fine. About a cup is enough to wash grains. For about 8 years, I have rinsed my kefir grains with clean, non-chlorinated cold water. To make the kefir as sweet as possible, you need to rinse it and wash out all the excess bacteria on the kefir grains. With either one, rinse it over your kefir so all the good bacteria isn't wasted. Question number 14. My sweetest kefir is not sweet. Am I doing something wrong? Sweetest kefir is not as sweet as candy. It is just the sweetest kefir can get, which is similar to the taste of plain yogurt. By washing your kefir grains, you wash off most of the bacteria on the surface into your kefir, so the next batch won't be as sour. By adding milk again to the kefir, you have begun the kefir yogurt process, but of course at a much slower rate because it's in the fridge. The bacteria inside the kefir are active, but at a much slower rate than kefir grains. By adding milk, instead of processing the kefir and making it more sour, the bacteria began to process the milk into kefir yogurt, which only makes the kefir sweeter. By mixing the kefir yogurt process with the kefir making process, you have just made your sweetest kefir even sweeter. Question number 15. What happens if I don't wash my kefir grains? If you don't wash your kefir grains, you produce sourer kefir. The longer you ferment the kefir, the more sour it will get. Temperature is another factor to make the fermentation faster or slower and the kefir more sour. If you have sour kefir, I would highly recommend trying this ancient Persian summer drink. Just sprinkle on some dried mint or basil, a bit of salt, and some crunched ice, and shake it well to give your kefir a refreshing flavor. Question number 16. Why did the waste separate when I left my kefir jar in the fridge for too long? Did it go bad? The bacteria in the kefir start fermenting the milk that you added to the kefir, so it is exactly the same as producing kefir with kefir grains, but at a very slow pace. The way is completely normal. Just shake your kefir jar before serving. Don't forget to give us a like. Please subscribe and stay with us to see more future videos from life experience. Thanks for watching and have yourself a wonderful day.